The figure above shows the graph of the function g and the line tangent to the graph at g at x equals -1. Let h be this function given, e to the x times g, and we want to know what is the value of h prime at -1. So our first job is to find a formula for h prime, and then we can evaluate it at x equals -1. So let's go to h right here. We have a product, so let's use product rule to find h prime. H prime at x is going to be equal to the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. Derivative of e to the x is just itself. And so we can, since we want to evaluate this when x is equal to -1, we're going to have e to the -1 and times g prime at -1 plus g at -1 times e to the -1. Now one thing you might want to do is go ahead and factor out that e to the first from each of those answer choices. If you factor out e to the -1, then that leaves g prime at -1 plus g at -1. And e to the -1 is just 1 over e, so that's why you've got divided by e on almost all of your answer choices right there. The negative exponent takes this base and this power down to the bottom of the fraction, so you end up with 1 over e. Then g prime at -1 is going to come from our graph up here. This line is tangent to g, and so the slope of this line that's tangent to g represents the derivative of g at x equals -1. So if we find the slope of that line, it's going to be the change in y, which is 3 minus -3, or 3 plus 3, divided by -1 minus 0. So just -1. So we get -6 for the slope. So g prime at -1 is -6, and we're going to add to that the value of g at -1. So when x is -1, the function value is going to be 3. So we'll put a 3 right here. And that gives us -6 plus 3 is -3 times 1 over e is -3 over e. And -3 over e is answer B.